Hi, I'm Lisa Curcio and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. The projected most popular bundle of products in the brand new Stampin' Up! Catalog is called the Magnolia Lane Suite. This entire suite of products includes a stamp set, dies, an embossing folder, beautiful designer series papers, and the list goes on. And I've got a card for you today that's intended to be hand delivered, but I've got a twist on it that I'm going to share during the video on how you can package it. Here is the card we're going to be creating together today. Look at that beautiful 3D flower. I'm excited to give you some tips about using the dies to create that flower as well as the designer series paper. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I would love to encourage you to subscribe. Go ahead and click that subscribe button down below and make sure you click that bell icon that's next to it. That will give you notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube, as well as when I upload a new project. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's card. Here's a good close-up of the card we're going to be creating together. Isn't this just stunning? The paper is just as beautiful as the dies, and I think you're going to agree by the time we're finished. Stay with me to the end of the video. I've got a great packaging idea for this 3D card. I'm starting with a piece of Whisper White cardstock. This measures 5.5 by 8.5. I scored it right before you joined me in half, and I'll go ahead and fold that. I'm a big fan of my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere designer series paper. This is from the beautiful Magnolia Suite. Now the designer series papers are double-sided with Stampin' Up, so you can see I interchanged the exact same piece here. You're going to find all the cutting dimensions down in the video description below if you are here visiting from YouTube. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet. I absolutely love this in the studio because adhesive will not stick to it. It simply rubs right off because of the silicone finish. That's going to keep my work surface nice and clean, especially when I'm going to be working very close to the edge of this designer series paper. I'm going to be a little bit more generous than I normally am with my adhesive because I want to make sure that I don't have any lifting along those edges. And you can see I'm working very close to those edges, so any adhesive that would fall normally here is going to fall here and won't stick. We're going to cover the entire front of this card, and you're going to see that I turn this in the portrait way. I'm going to flip over now to the floral, and I'll do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my floral paper. I'm looking to make sure that my edge in the center is meeting. We're going to set that aside, and I'm pulling out the stamp set called Good Morning Magnolia. You can see how large this image is. Isn't it beautiful? Love the varied greetings, of course, as well as the image and the border. Now, this is also offered as a bundle with the coordinating dies. And this is what I'm using today to create that Builder 3D Magnolia flower. And I'll be using the greeting from the stamp set. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in Stampin' Up! Products, I would be more than happy to send you a complimentary copy of the current catalog. Go over to lisastampstudio.com, click on the Contact Me button, go ahead and give me your name and mailing address, and I would be happy to send those to you. I went ahead and I pulled out these two dies, and just ahead of the video, I did the die cutting for you. So I did two with the larger, and I did two with the smaller. That's going to make the flower the size that I'm using on my card. I also pulled out the large leaf die. The one thing I love about these dies is they actually give you two of the same size leaves inside that die set. This means that you can die cut both leaves at the exact same time. I'm also going to call your attention to the fact that they've got two smaller ones and two outline ones. These dies create these absolute beautiful open leaves. I want to create some realism to this card. This is where that 3D effect comes in, and I'm going to be using my bone folder for that. I'm going to hold it between my thumb and index finger on my less predominant hand. Now I'm going to be very careful to come down here, and I'm just curling the paper. Actually, all I'm doing is just conditioning the paper to curl against the bone folder. You want to make sure that you don't pull too hard, that you actually rip it away from the center. I'm going to do that now on the remaining three pieces that I have here. Now once those are finished, we're going to go ahead and adhere them together to make the flower. I've got my silicone craft sheet here once again. I'm going to use adhesive on the back side, kind of clustering it right in the center. You're going to notice that the three petals go in this direction. So I want this one to go in the opposite direction to fill in this space here. A little off center is totally fine. The same with these smaller ones. I'm going to add adhesive here, and I'm going to add this flower here in the center of that cluster. Now on this flower, I want to add a little bit of color to that center to be reminiscent of the designer series paper. Do you see how it has that petal pink color center here with the yellow? So I'm going to go ahead and add that with a dauber. I'm going to bring in a small scratch piece of grid paper here, and I've got the Petal Pink ink pad. Stampin' Up's color coordination is one of my very favorite things. I've got a sponge dauber. My finger goes up inside. I'll ink that up here on the ink pad. Now I'm going to tap some of that ink off so I can control the coverage. And then I'm just going to swirl that right here in the middle. This now I'll flip over, and then once again using that silicone craft sheet, I'm going to add adhesive here. And I'm going to build this just like I did the others. So I'm going to make sure that I offset those petals. The great thing about this die set is it also includes this amazing center for your flowers. And with a piece of So Saffron cardstock, I've done that ahead of time. Since that's rather small, I've chosen to use a glue dot to adhere it. So I'm pulling back the glue dots, taking the back end, and I'm pressing that right in the center of my flower. And then I'll lift, and that glue dot will come off with it. That now is going to go in the middle of that highlighted area that I've just colored. Then what we can do is give this a little bit of lift to kind of liven up any areas that may have fallen short. But you can see that it keeps its shape very well. I've got those 2 leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and add those. I'm going to bring in that silicone craft sheet again because I'm going to use my adhesive. Now you certainly can use glue dots if you prefer. I'm placing adhesive at the very bottom, and then I'm going to decide where I want to position these. Of course, I want to make sure that the adhesive doesn't show, and I'm going to press that in place. And I'll do the same thing now with this one, and I'm going to place that one down here. I'm going to add a small pearl here to the center, and I've got my pearls here, and I've got my Take Your Pick pickup tool with my paper piercing tool attachment. Go ahead and pull up one of these medium-sized ones. Of course, you can use as large of a pearl as you'd like. The great thing about those pearls is they've already got a glue dot on the back, so you don't have to fuss with glue. Now I'm going to set that aside, and I've got a small piece of Whisper White cardstock here, and this is where I'm going to stamp the greeting. This is the greeting from the stamp set. You might be thinking, well, how did you get just that one line? And I'm going to show you. Now there's 2 ways you can do it. You can flip it over and you can use a marker to color in that area, which is the easiest. So let me show you that. I've got the basic black Stampin' Right marker here. The tips are designated by the lines. So the thicker tip is the brush end and the thin tip is the pen end. This is intended for writing, signing, or journaling your scrapbooks. So I'm going to use the thicker end. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to marker in the words, "Someone So Special." You're going to need to huff on it with your breath to re-moisten that ink. And then I'm just going to position that right here on top of the cardstock and press. I've just cleaned my stamp on my Stampin' Scrub. Now the other way you can do this if you don't have the black marker is to use Scotch tape. You will need a piece longer than the actual stamp itself. You're going to make a tab on one end. And then all you're going to do is cover up the words that you don't want. With this greeting especially, I found that the marker was easier simply because you don't want to lose part of the lettering. But you would tack this down, you would ink up your stamp, you would remove it from the tab. That's going to leave only the area that you have ink, and then you can stamp it. I wanted to provide you with an alternative idea in case you didn't own the marker. Now I chose to create a banner tip on this end, and my favorite way to do that is using the tailored tag punch. I'm going to flip this over. Do you see the area here? That's going to make a banner tip. You can see how wide the banner can be created or how narrow. I'm going to go ahead and hold my cardstock, and then I'm going to slide this in from the top of the punch. I'm looking for that first word, and then I'm going to back up the punch. I'm going to center it the very best that I can in the center. And then once I'm happy with the placement, I'll just go ahead and squeeze. And that'll give us that banner tip. I'm going to go ahead and add that greeting now. So I'm going to flip that over here on my silicone craft sheet. I'm going to add adhesive on the back side. And I'm going to bring in that card. And I'm going to put that here near the bottom right corner. Our flower now can get attached. So I'm going to lift that up. And on the back side, I'm going to use several dimensionals. I'm going to be very generous with these. I'm going to tack down those leaves. And then I'm going to add a couple more here in the center. I'll remove those paper backings, and then this is going to get positioned on our card. And then I'll just give it one little last fluff so everything looks pretty. Now, if you're wondering how to mail this, I promised you an idea. This is one of our clear acetate card boxes. Look at this. It slips right down inside. There is ample room for that 3D flower. And then, of course, you can seal it. This is a great way to present it. If you're going to mail it, you can put this in a bubble envelope, which, of course, will preserve your card. I also want to show you how you can create the belly band, which is what we call this, for this card box. I chose to wrap it this way so it didn't have to be compromised when it's open, which also gives the other person on the receiving end something to re-gift. When you receive the acetate card boxes, my best advice for you is to go ahead and open it up and crease it in both directions. It's already scored for you, so it's just a matter of putting the box together. The belly band is 1 1/2 inches wide by the full 12 inches of the Designer Series paper. I put the raw ends underneath my flower so that the back end would look finished. And then I used that timeless tag punch to stamp the greeting thanks, which is also part of that Good Morning Magnolia stamp set. This is just a real pretty and simple way to dress up your card as well as package it. Here's the card we created together today. Here's the one I created before you joined me. If you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and give us some love here on YouTube. It makes them and I both very happy. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.